Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining the topic of how you can see yourself as the deity. This is probably one of the most powerful ways of connecting with the deities, is to actually be able to envision yourself as a deity. Now, how can we do this? To do this, let's first understand what the causal plane of existence is, where these beings lie. So the causal plane of existence is the plane that existed, that caused everything to happen, that caused all of creation to happen, that was there during the events of the Big Bang, what created this physical existence. And so these deities have been here. They are termed the primordial deities because they were here before our mortality existed, and they were our creators in the sense that they created the seed of us that went from amoeba that had the blueprint of the DNA to go from being amoeba, not just DNA in the physical sense, but also the spiritual sense. So it's like a seed, like any seed that you plant, like a seed for a rose, for instance. You plant that seed and you expect a rose to grow. So they create this seed, and it's them creating this seed, and eventually that blueprint is to lead back to them. It's to say they are these godly, infinite beings, and out of whether it was boredom or curiosity, they decided to each take part of themselves, create them, and put themselves basically into seed form and plant that back into here, into physical reality, so that they could experience through their creation all of which that they have created. Meaning that they chose to forget. It's like saying they were basically on God mode. If you ever played Grand Theft Auto and turned on all the cheat modes, they were on God mode and they realized, hey, this is boring. Or something like Elden Ring. They played Elden Ring so many times it was basically God mode where no one could touch them, there was no conflict, and it's like, well, what do? Well, you go and you start over again. You start from scratch. For instance, if you're playing these video games, you could say, okay, I played New Game Plus enough, let me restart from ground zero again and start anew. And so that's basically the sense, is that we are these seeds. We start from amoeba. We go on to all these different lifetimes of all these different plants and animals, various things like that, till we become human. And then after human, the question is, when we have the ability now gifted to us to begin to start questioning, that's when it kind of comes to light, the ability to hypothesize what is next. Like an animal isn't thinking anything besides, how can I be the best version of this animal? Like a tiger is just busy being a tiger, a cat's just busy being a cat. But humans, we have the ability to ponder and the ability to ask and to question. And so that opens up a whole doorway, because then we can figure out and try to ponder what's next for us in our evolution. Not necessarily our physical evolution, but our spiritual evolution. If we can understand and comprehend that we came from all of these past lives as animals, we have to then question, what does the road look like ahead of us? Is this the ultimatum? Is it humans and that's it? And so that's where these deities come in, because they show us the way forward. They say, this is what you have to look forward to. And these beings exist on the causal plane. On the causal plane of existence, the two upper chakras, the crown chakra and the third eye chakra, exist. The other chakras do not. So these two chakras are the desire to think and to create, the Anjali chakra, and the desire to exist, the crown chakra. When we come down to astral constructs, that includes these top two chakras, as well as the desire to communicate, the throat chakra, and the desire to love, the heart chakra. And so that is basically what our next stage is. For us, our physical, this is the physical reality. And so in order to get towards the next level, the next stage, so to speak, that would be these astral constructs. Because these beings exist on what is the causal plane, but they will show and display themselves in astral forms, and they have their own astral counterparts. And our idea is, if we have something to look forward to, that something, we have these stories and we have these different ways of connecting with these higher energies, then we can kind of realize the truth, realize our origin, where it is that we come from. And when I talk about these things, my knee is hurting me, sorry. When I talk about these things, having deities, like channeling, I apologize, the whole knee thing threw me off. But yeah, basically the sense is right now, this is, being a human is basically kind of like a peak experience in this physical reality. And so we were gifted as humans, as our spines became erect and as we had a sudden change, very quick advancement in our evolution, that advancement gave us the opportunity to learn yoga, and all those before that came that taught yoga were the ones who brought pathways to for humanity to reach these states. And so that's actually exactly what the deities are those that came before that have achieved these feats. So you can look at Shiva, for instance, was a real person. He was a man, but him and his impact and what he did basically opens up a gateway for, he was the first human to basically create this path to open up this gateway. For instance, like when you could say, like when an athlete, let's say in like the 50 freestyle, if you were a swimmer, the first athlete to break 20 point, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they broke 20 point. But what you'll hear is that as soon as one person does it, it becomes much easier for everyone else too. As soon as one person opens up that pathway, everyone else sees that it's possible and sees that it's that pathway, I guess, exists and opens up. So Shiva is no different. But what I can say about Shiva the man, that is, Shiva himself, Shiva the energy has always existed, even before time itself. And so how can I explain that to you? How can I explain Shiva? How can I explain channeling energies from deities in general? Well, the first way I'll do that is going to be with Shiva, because this is the easiest one. All living beings here experience the Shiva state, whether they know it or not. Experience the Shiva state. I'll invite everyone to close their eyes for 10 seconds. For these next 10 seconds, I'll count in the mind, and I'll let you know when to stop. Go with your eyes closed and no thought. Ready? Go. So that state of nothingness, that state of 0 hertz, is a state that's achievable by every living being on this planet. Meaning that we're all connected in a sense, because we can all access that Shiva state together. That state of close eyes, no sound, nothing coming in. If there's sound, that's fine. It's just to get to a state where even that a sound is not affecting you. This is known as the Shiva state. Even the state, you can go to the point where even you're not thinking of breath. You're not even comprehending to breathe. You almost forget to breathe. And once you go very deep into the state. But when someone says, I am Shiva, this is in reference to the state, a state that we all have access to. And so if I explain to you the Shiva state, then I can explain to you that there are other deities and there are other states of consciousness to arrive at as well. So one way to think about this is if I talk about the feminine energy that pervades in the heart, Mahavidya Kali. Kali, for instance, she represents the form of fierce love. So a way to kind of envision this is famously in the Incredible Hulk TV series, there was a scene in which a mother is lifting up a car. She didn't know where this power is coming from, but to save her child who's trapped in it. And this is something that has been this isn't just something that came out of a TV show. It was something that was based off of true life events and true life experiences where that does happen. You have this like motherly protective love in states where a child is in danger. Where does that come from? Where does that primal urge, that power come from? It's something that has been with us throughout all of time too. If you look at reincarnation, you can see this with bears and tigers and lions and things like that. The female version of these animals are ferocious and protective when it comes to their young. And so that same energy that has been embodied in these animals, beings, is the same energy that is still with us today. There's also the energy of Mahavidya Bhairavi, which is basically that rests in the root chakra, and that is the energy of the energy that has always been there to feed us, that has made sure that food has been provided for us. And so embodying this energy would mean almost just being in the action of selflessly feeding others. So like even just when I feed my cat, I think about, I'll chant the Bhairavi mantra and realize what it is that I'm doing, because I'm acting in a motherly way towards the cat. Where is that energy coming from? Why is that an automatic response in me? And that's how these deities come into play. It's basically trying to go in, and when you chant these mantras, hone in on these primal energies that we have within us. So even for me, if I'm going and chanting a mantra with Kali, I'm chanting to bring upon the motherly energy in me that embodies the fierce, protective nature. All right. Additionally, there are other ways you can view these deities in forms of relationships, as being a father figure, a mother figure, as being a brother or a sister, as being a husband or a wife. But in this video, I'm focusing mainly on how you can embody and become that deity. And the interesting part of this is different people will have different deities that they view themselves to embody, otherwise known as their Ishtadevata. So for me, personally, it's been Bhairava, but there's times as well where it shifts to Vishnu and Shiva as well. And there's a lot that kind of goes into that, because at the end of the day, there can be multiple Ishtas or multiple deities that you are drawn to. And a way to kind of explain that is, if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out by Disney, it's kind of the sense that when you look at these deities, you can kind of picture them as those emotions in that film, where they're all, some of them are up there on the motherboard, and the rest of them, some of them are kind of forgotten about, and this and that. And some of them are embodied in the main character's real life as well. And you can even see that, the parents in that film have their own emotional characters as well in their own minds. So that's kind of the sense, is it can change over time, the emotions or the deities that you view as your Ishta, the ones that are kind of, the ones you're focused on and that are in command. And that's really speaks about the uniqueness of each one of these paths, is because it's truly, we are all unique in that way, where everybody's going to view this differently. A lot of people too who grow up Christian, they have a strong connection towards Christ, and Christ can fit in the same way by saying, oh, let me embody the Christ within, and in a sense, connect to that energy. And almost I think in Christianity now, with Christ being that central figure, it's kind of seen that Christ is the figure that pervades in all of those aspects of life, I guess. As far as I know, I don't know too much about that aspect. All right, and I'm trying to think anything else So I explained how you can see yourself as the deity. Some practices, so some things that, some like very practical ways. If you're ever kind of see yourself in a flow state, like maybe you're cleaning or doing some task, that flow state is a good example as to what it means to embody a deity or to channel that energy, because it's kind of like a mindless, selfless state where something will almost like overtake you, or you're acting like when you do something in a selfless nature, like you just give without thinking about it, for instance. All right. And the last thing I want to touch upon this video before I conclude is going to be the different planes of existence, because I touched on that earlier. I touched on the fact that there's the causal plane, and that's where the deities reside, and that's basically kind of where we're headed in terms of spiritual evolution. Below that is the astral constructs, and here is basically where we'll spend many, many, many years in the astral construct before we get to this causal plane. So right now we're in physical reality. There's all this astral lifetimes like to live. We're here in humanity in the physical plane. Sure, there are probably more advanced physical beings than us, but we have the ability to jump ahead and say, I don't want to be reborn like as some space alien somewhere else, right? Because that's kind of the risk you run. Like when if you reincarnate, that's the thing, is like you can choose to be like, well, I don't want anything to do with Earth. Or like, let's say something happens to Earth. You run the risk of going on a different planet, and who knows if it's better or worse than here. And so the idea is like, let's say we already have this gateway, like we've been given it multiple different times, whether it's been from Krishna or it's been from Buddha, or if it's been from Yeshua, opening different pathways for people to enter into the astral planets that pervade with the heart and throat and the third eye and the crown. And the other chakras too, there are astral planets that are themed around those ones as well. But the kind of idea is how to escape this reincarnation trap is to balance out these lower three chakras that are related to the physical environment and get to the heart at least. That is the goal. That's why Christianity, following that path, I just speak on that because I had interest in it at one point, but I couldn't get past the fact I was talking, I had questions about, I was like, if Jesus is the only way, I'm like, how did the space aliens find salvation? And they didn't have an answer for me at the time. And so I kept asking, and then I found my answers. All right. Went on a bit of a tangent there, and now I'm a bit off. Thank you all for watching today. I had one more bit that I was going to talk about, because I was just talking about, oh yes, so the astral plane that we were talking about, and then I got into the tangent. So yeah, different planets. So yeah, in Christianity, they have the idea that Christ, which is an energy that pervades in the heart, it's the same energy as Krishna, will open up, be the gateway towards heaven. Or, they talk about heaven being this place where, you don't have, your needs will be met for you, everything like that. And that is truth, is, yeah, if we can get people to cast aside these physical desires, go and open up to the heart, that is great. So Christianity is a pathway towards this heaven, and a lot of them, the way I see it, are waking up, in this astral heaven, and then they're going to start to work their way up. But the idea in Sanatana Dharma is we can go past the heart. We can go to balance of the heart. We can go balance the feminine aspects of the heart as well, which are not talked about in modern day Christianity, mainly just the masculine element, but they're the four feminine energies in the heart as well. And then there are also the energies that pervade the throat as well, one masculine and two feminine. The third eye centers and the crown centers that are not touched upon, at least from my knowledge in the Abrahamic religions. But that's not to say that there's a fault in any religious pathway, because the gateway to the heart is the gateway to higher realms. And for most people, that's enough. For some others, they want more seeking. And that's the idea where you get into the deities that pervade in the higher energy centers, where that's kind of like, you know, the thirst for knowledge becomes greater, the thirst for realization becomes greater. So yeah, thank you all for watching today's video. Before I know I already have done this, and if I haven't cut out these clips, it's because I'm lazy about cutting out clips. The last part that I want to touch on is the physical realm real quickly, because the physical realm is where we have the lower three chakras, the solar plexus, the swadhisthana, and the root chakra. And basically that's the whole idea. It's not about renunciation of these things in order to, to forego rebirth on the physical plane. It's just about like overcoming those desires. So like overcoming the desire to eat. Like, are you eating for survival, or are you eating because you're attached? Same things with relationships and physical pleasures, carnal desires. Are you enjoying these desires for, because you're connected to them, because you have desire rooted to them, or are you just doing it for survivability purposes or just enjoyment purposes? It doesn't have to just be survivability, just enjoyment, but like the fact that, you won't be so devastated if this thing is taken away from you. Because the idea is, if we surpass these physical limitations, then then eating no longer becomes a necessity. Comforts no longer become a necessity. Popularity and fame and all these other things no longer become a necessity, and ego no longer become a necessity. So if you're in these astral constructs and you're able to create what it is your heart desires, then, to be frank, like nobody wants to have like you over there just being like, okay, I'm gonna eat all food all day, I'm still like, I can't like get over food, because that'll be your existence, that'll be your heaven, is just like food all day. And it's like, the idea is you want to go to these higher energy centers. So you kind of trap yourself if you get stuck in one of these lower desires, or even if it's something like money. Like, okay, you're going to trap yourself in your own personal hell where like, you're on this astral plane and you're just worried about money and ego and this and that, and you never come to learn. And so here in the physical, we come to learn. We learn to detach from these lower desires, so that we can enjoy these astral experiences more. So that when we're in these astral experiences, the state that is when we're dreaming, we can have a much more fruitful experience, rather than being pulled down and weighted down by these lower chakra desires. So you're not having like, dreams about ego and shame, or dreams just about, cupcakes and muffins, which are great, or pizza. Like I've been having dreams about eating like pepperoni pizza, and I don't eat beef, and I'm just like, why is this? But yeah, it's like, so it's the idea is to try to get rid of these so it doesn't become, a distortion in the astral plane, so we don't become, tempted to come back down again and experience the physical, because there are higher chakras and higher pleasures to be experienced, and that has to do with desires to love, and desires to communicate, desires to think and to create, and the desire to exist. And when we have the energy to focus more on these chakras, we can embody them more, and we can experience them more. And so that's just kind of the sense is, if we have energy to spend, do we want to spend it here in the physical with the things that have to do with physical desires, or do we want to do things that deal with more of the emotional body, or things that deal with the, our thought body, or creativity in this world. Okay, for the third time, I know I've said it quite a bit now. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, Jai Mahakal.